Hey everyone, this is Tyler here. It is May 8th and I want to go over a brief topic here, and this has been on many people's radar at the moment. That's what I think of Japanese investors and what it's like having them as backers for a company or potential backers. Right now, there's been a lot of coverage of a company known as Wework. Wework was a major co-working space company. At one point they had over a $40 billion valuation, and they were about to make an IPO and become one of these big startups. And they actually eventually were unable to do this. The company is still private and they had a huge falling out. This company has also been losing billions of dollars now for the past few years. It's been a very tumultuous situation for this company. People often don't understand the importance and impact of their backers. One of their major backers was a company known as Softbank. Softbank is a big company based in Japan, run by Masayoshi Son, and this Japanese-based company had started a huge fund, and what they were about was investing these mega sums into startups. And they've had many companies. They've infused at least $500 million, which is huge for early series investments. Most of the time these same companies would be lucky to receive maybe 5, 10, maybe $50 million on the high side. But some of these companies were receiving way more than that. And one of these companies was Wework. Wework's not a new concept. It's just a concept that was reimagined and it was branded in a really cool way. This company was started about 8 years ago and it became one of the biggest startups in the world. One of their major backers were the Japanese, and that was Softbank. Softbank almost instantaneously invested a huge round in the early days. This investment was very key for both giving them the funds necessary and also bringing a lot of hype and attention to the company, something that investors play a big role in today. Now, it's important to understand what Japanese investors can be like and what it is like dealing with them. Note, firstly, an instantaneous round from a Japanese investor is not normal. In fact, Japanese investors are often known for prolonging these agreements, and it can take a very long time to close an agreement with the Japanese. My brother and I had previously attempted to do work with Japanese and get some investors aboard our previous startup, Acrivea. They were exceptionally difficult to work with. In the end, we were unable to close any rounds of investments, and we were also unable to complete wholesale contracts with some Japanese companies that we were very close at one point of securing. When we see a company like Wework that closed a massive round of investment with a Japanese firm, Softbank, this is no easy feat, and it also set a course for them. In the beginning, Wework obviously was able to sell all these people, these investors. Softbank was one of the first investors. How Japanese investors work is very important to understand, and it's very telling. One thing to note with East Asian investors in general is they're very easily sold on hype. There was a situation with a big watch startup that was almost acquired for about $700 million, the Pebble smartwatch, about 6 years ago. Eventually, this watch company, Pebble, ended up not closing the buyout. They were attempting to be bought out by the company Seiko. This was a very unique circumstance, and what ended up happening is that Pebble kind of went into the ground. Many of you may know the history, and they weren't even close of getting any offers again from Seiko. Eventually, their assets, I believe, were acquired for about $40 million. The Japanese are very difficult to work with as investors, and what often happens is they're sold on the hype. It's similar to other East Asian groups. Unfortunately, if your company or brand isn't able to maintain their status quo or sustain a certain amount of revenue, you can immediately be undercutted by a Japanese company or individual. I'm not saying all Japanese companies are like this, but this is a common issue, and this set a course for WeWork. I was very aware of this even when they first got this round in 2016, that this could cause problems. 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, when they were going through these proceedings with WeWork, I was not surprised that this stuff didn't amount to anything with Softbank, and they basically pulled out of these agreements. I had previously experienced something similar, and my brother had. This is important to realize that this is working with the Japanese. Understand that when you work with groups, it can be any group, and the Japanese are definitely one of them. Don't just look at the prestige or the hype around the group. Look at the actions and consider both sides of the agreement, because it can end up becoming worse to proceed forward with investment round. And it actually was the downturn of WeWork when they continued working with Japanese investors. I, on a personal level, would be very careful in the future working with a Japanese investor. Just understand what's on the table here. I appreciate your feedback here, and thank you.